And with that, I'd like to present the Mayor of Boise, Dave Bieter.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, we have one of the great fire departments in the country. And along with keeping us safe, they've been recognized as one of the best employers in the country for those who serve in the Guard and Reserve. They were honored among just a handful of employers all across the country. They brought them to the Pentagon just a few weeks ago. These pipe and drum guys are great. Let's hear it for the Boise Fire Department. I'm going to take those guys everywhere I go. Let's hear it for the pipers. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Egyptian. You know, after 12 years of the state of the city at the same place and a way too early time, we wanted to mix things up a little bit, starting with a 4 o'clock beginning time. And you know, everything is better in the Egyptian. You know, when I was in high school, the dates I had, I didn't have that many, but when I had them, they were always better in the balcony of the Egyptian. You know, in these days, you get to hear John Namath or Curtis Stigers. You get to hear our own Pulitzer Prize winner, Tony Doerr, read from his own work at the Egyptian. And you know, great cities have great airports. And ours has been nationally recognized as a user-friendly airport. And we've made it better this year with local concessions and local vendors. And as was mentioned just a few weeks ago, we dedicated the SkyWest hangar, all 130,000 square feet of it. It'll have 8 planes at one time, but more importantly, 100 employees with pay of $50,000 a year and above. And just in the last several months, we've added direct flights to LA, to Reno, to Sacramento, and to many, many other cities. But what we need is an East Coast connection. You know, this last year, I had a chance to scope out an airline with a great East Coast connection, a premium airline, with some of the best service, the best employees you've ever seen. And get this, they have complimentary food and drink. You already know what I'm talking about. You didn't think I wouldn't talk about Air Force One, did you? That's just about the most fun I have had in elected office. You know, but the important thing about President Obama's visit, it was a chance to showcase our great city, our great university, and the efforts at job creation and innovation. And you know, this is one of the best times that Boise has ever seen, certainly unprecedented in my lifetime. All around us, you see signs of the foundations of a lasting, innovative, and vibrant city in our Live Boise Livability Initiative. I mean, just think about this. In downtown Boise alone, either underway or about to break ground, is $750 million of investment. That is billion with a B, as in boggles the mind. There's development all around the city, not just downtown, residential, commercial, retail. You know, just a couple weeks ago, I'm sure you saw this as I did, Micron has announced they're building a $200 million R&D fab, and they're going to break ground just in the next couple of months. I know there are some folks here from Micron. Let's give them a hand for all that they do in and for the city of Boise. These are all examples of the confidence that people have in Boise's future, because let's face it, our city is our product. We have to compete for great companies, the kind of innovative minds, and the kinds of spirits that build a lasting economy and build the prosperity that you and I all need. And what they're telling us about Boise is a very, very good product. Let me talk about just a few of the developments that are going on right outside the doors of this theater. First of all, JUMP and the Simplot headquarters. JUMP is becoming one of the most interesting forms of architecture in the city of Boise, along with the Simplot headquarters. They're embracing the urban core and they're transforming it at the same time. And you know, Gardner and company, fresh off filling the hole in the ground, they doubled down with City Center Plaza. City Center Plaza is going to be a whole lot of things, but among them will be Boise State's Computer Science Department, expansion of the convention center, and a sky bridge connecting the existing convention center from the new facilities. And of course, we're making great progress on our underground transit hub. But if that weren't enough, Gardner's doubling down again. I guess that's tripling down on the area to the west of JUMP, what we call Parcel B. 2 full city blocks. There's going to be 2 new hotels and office space and retail. This is the new urbanism on the grandest of scales. And you know, one of the most important aspects of downtown Boise is to grow residential uses in downtown Boise. That's so important, and that's going to get a huge boost forward. Local Construct is going to build a 163-unit development called The Roost. But it isn't just new development. The old will be new again, and nothing better than the Macy's building. Some of it knew it when it was the Bon Marché or the Anderson building, one of the great historic buildings in downtown Boise. Athlos Education is going to do around a $9 million renovation of this great historic building, used as a training center and for their headquarters as well. You know, and how about the Boise Fire Bond? You know, just going back to our voters was a real dangerous proposition, because we had failed only by a little in a bigger bond in 2013. At times, it seemed like there were only 3 people in favor of going back to our voters. This last November was me, my wife, and Dennis Doan, our fire chief. And my wife was a little shaky. Dear, I'm only kidding. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, please recognize my wife and my daughter for putting up with me for another year. Right over here. She was actually very, very encouraging. You know, we got a little bit of luck. We had some good fortune. A legacy firefighter retirement fund was fully funded in 2014, and we could take those funds and dedicate them to the bond, to the debt service on the bond, and we could go out to our voters for a no tax bond. We didn't have to raise taxes in order to approve them. But you know, think about that. That becomes even dicier. If you can't pass a no tax bond, you may never pass a bond in the city of Boise ever again. That's what we were up against. But you know what made the difference was all of you. When it came time to reach out and see if there was support for a bond campaign, you didn't hesitate. All the folks, the names of businesses and individuals you're going to see behind me here, they all didn't hesitate. They anteed in and said, whatever we can do to help the city. That gave us momentum. The council members all got on board, unanimously passed it. But we still faced that 2/3 majority, that antiquated, Idaho law requiring a 2/3 majority vote. But you know, on election day, we didn't get a 66 2/3%. We got 76%. That's an unprecedented number. In fact, we even got a higher percentage than this guy got in his last election, Vladimir Putin. We got more than he did, and he cheats. And it isn't just the fire facilities. What's great about the bond, we have 4 new fire stations and a fire training facility. But on top of that, it's everything else that we're going to be able to do. We've been waiting way too long for the Bound Crossing Library, but we are ecstatic. We're going to break ground on that just in the next couple of months. We're going to have at least 3 new parks. Franklin Park, these are underserved areas of the city. Pine Grove, Sterling Parks. We're going to be able to green those up just in the next year or so. On top of that, Road Skate Park, along with a $2 million donation from the Albertson Family Foundation, we're able to make that really an exceptional facility, one of the best skating facilities in the Northwest. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for the Boise voters who know a good deal when they see it. You know, there is more good news in the city of Boise than at any time that I remember. But even with all that good news, we have our challenges. One of them is the threat to local control. You know, I used to be in the Idaho legislature, and nothing galls the legislature more than to have the federal government reach down and take authority away from them. But you know, that doesn't stop the people in our state house from then in turn going and taking away authority from municipalities. You know, financial authority, regulatory authority, economic development authority. Just this past year, they stripped from local governments important authority to preserve riparian areas around rivers and lakes in Idaho, like our greenbelt. We may never see another greenbelt in the state of Idaho because of what they did this year. And you know, when it comes to ride-sharing companies like Uber, you know, they took away all our authority to see to the health and safety of our citizens. And unfortunately, the chamber endorsed that effort over at the State House. You know, this is a very slippery slope. What might be next? Redevelopment agency authority, the ability for cities to belong and to contribute funds to organizations like the Boise Valley Economic Partnership. This is a very slippery slope. But let me give you, what's most important is that we have the authority locally. We're going to have vigorous debate. You know, we're going to vet these issues really tough. We're going to deliberate, but then we're going to arrive at the best decision that we possibly can locally. Let me give you a great example of what I'm talking about. You know, in 2001, we passed a 2-year open space levy, $10 million levy. Did it in 2001. Within about 4 or 5 years, excuse me, a discussion began about when we should do that again. Well, some months ago, the city council and I convened a public workshop, a public discussion on this issue, and unanimously, they concluded that it was the right time to put on the ballot another $10 million open space 2-year levy. And you know, since they took that action, some great things have happened. The chamber has unanimously endorsed the open space levy. And the Idaho Conservation League and I have already begun raising money for the campaign to pass this important measure. You know, that's what I mean by local control, where our voters, our people, have the chance to make those decisions. They're always better when we get that opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in doing all we can to pass the initiative, the open space initiative that's on the ballot this November. Another challenge that we have, like cities all around the country and really cities all around the world, how do we help the homeless residents in our community? You might have heard in the news recently that we're litigating our anti-camping ordinance. You know, we don't cite under our ordinance unless there's no room in our shelters, but because of the dedication of so many, there's nearly always room in our shelters. You know, camping in public areas in the city is the worst answer to homelessness. For those residents, it's unsafe, it's unhealthy, it presents a whole lot of problems for the rest of us. But I am confident that we can take on an issue as tough as homelessness because of the people we have working with our less fortunate people in our community. I want to introduce you to one of those folks right now.
Tom Schuler is an asset to the police force, and he definitely is an asset to the community.
So a big part of my job on the bike is making Boise just a livable city for everyone. You know, be it a visitor, someone who lives here, someone who's just passing through, so they feel safe on the Greenbelt, the foothills, downtown, and they can enjoy everything the city has to offer because it is a special place. You know, the city's large, the Greenbelt goes, you know, through from the city limit to the city limit. We'll try to get out and just be seen and talk to people as far on the Greenbelt all the way out to Barber Park towards Lucky Peak, just so people see that, hey, the police are here, we say hello, and just kind of spreading the message that, you know, there's no place if you want to do bad things, there may be an officer coming by at any minute. On the bike level, again, we can get so much more involved because, you know, we're on a bike, so people can talk to us and we can see people and we can do those kind of things. So that's the niche that we fill. With a lot of our, you know, a lot of our population that's having a hard time.
With a police officer, the uniform makes a difference. It's like a barrier between them, and somehow Tom breaks that down.
And they get to know us, they get to trust us.
Just that real human element of interacting with a police officer, I think that has definitely changed the way that people view the entire police department.
A lot of the folks down here, they're like my extended family.
I have never known anyone, whether he's a police officer or not, to have as much compassion for somebody. Not that he can't be stern, because I've seen him be stern and get forceful when he needed to. He has protected the volunteers.
My dad was a social worker, my mom, you know, worked in human rights her whole life, so I think it's in my DNA.
They know Tom, and Tom knows their name. You don't do that unless you care.
Good, how are you doing, Tommy?
I'm doing great, how's everything?
It's an honor and a privilege to be able to work with him and to know him.
I just don't see how I could get a better situation and still, you know, go home every night and go, my goodness, I love my job.
You know, I'd love to introduce you to Tom Schuler, but wouldn't you know it, he's serving today in the Idaho National Guard. The quality of the people we have dedicated to this issue, this is why I know that we can take it on. This year, we celebrated our 5th anniversary of Allenbaugh House, and that is such a milestone. It's the first year that we've had full funding, state of Idaho anteed in for their original commitment. Allenbaugh House is a crisis mental health and medical detoxification facility, and we offer those services to the public for free. And at any time, in any month, about half of the patients at Allenbaugh House are homeless. You know, we've been able to do that because of the work of so many people. The federal government, the state government through health and welfare, the Ada County Boise City Housing Authority, St. Luke's, St. Al's, the cities of Meridian and Boise, Ada County, you know, just everybody dug in. I'm probably leaving a few out, but everybody dug in to make that happen. It's what we call the Allenbaugh House model. It's really our only alternative to really make some positive change for those less fortunate in our community, because, you know, cities in Idaho have very limited resources. People don't seem to understand this, but, you know, we are dependent for 2/3 of our revenue on the property tax, and we can only raise that. Even if we were inclined to 3% a year, we get a little bit more for growth, but that's it. We don't have funds for transit, for low income and affordable housing. We don't have social service funding to be able to do that. What we have to do is basically have a barn raising. We have to get together, collaborate with as many groups and individuals as we can, and get around the table and squeeze whatever resources we can to do something meaningful. That's what's happened in Allenby House, and that's what we've already begun to do on the issue of homelessness. All the Allenby House Board agreed to go forward and to work on this issue. We've got all the folks that you're going to see up on the screen here. Everybody's around the table in an effort to bring more facilities, more homes for the homeless people, the people that are having the hardest time in our community. And we'll be excited to tell you how we're going to do that. We've already had 4 really productive meetings. We'll be excited to tell you how we're going to do that within the next year. A lot of these folks are here this morning. Give a big round of applause for the folks at Allenby House and all the folks working to do something positive. You know, these are good times, and this is the time to take on some of the challenges in our community. This is the time to do it. As John F. Kennedy once said, we should fix the roof while the sun is shining. And that's what we're doing all around the city, and let me tell you how. First is our Energize Our Neighborhood initiative, and we're focusing on the Vista neighborhood. You know, Vista is a great neighborhood, the gateway to Boise down Vista Avenue, but we also have fairly low property values and some of the highest free and reduced lunch percentages in the schools in that area in the Boise School District. But we want to take our resources and to energize our neighborhood and focus for 2-3 years on one neighborhood, in this case the Vista neighborhood, see what we can learn as a model and then apply it to neighborhoods all around the city. I could tell you more about it, but it's better to show you. One of our most important assets is the strength of our neighborhoods, and to make sure that there's a sense of place in the city and that we energize all of those neighborhoods and provide amenities and opportunities in all of them.
This project began when the city undertook a pretty aggressive mapping initiative, and what we did was took a look at the city, overlaid GIS indicators to get a picture, an accurate picture of the health of the community. We saw opportunity when we took a look at that map.
The view is what caught me because it's sort of up above the city. You're looking out over the mountains. It was just almost perfect.
Well, it is the gateway to the city. It is the first thing people see when they come down from the airport.
Well, there's just so much value here, and it's in the people. There's a great community that lives in the Vista neighborhood, and what this can be, the potential, is just amazing to me.
My daughter, I want her to go to college like me.
When I heard that there would be a possibility for free public preschool at Whitney Elementary, it was just really a kind of a ray of hope for everybody at this school.
Rarely in public office do you find policies that are proven to be as effective as this. For every $1 invested, you save up to $13, but even more importantly is we know these students, these kids will do better, not just in the first years of their education, but in their lives.
Not only do we have residents providing input, we have residents involved in designing the strategies, and that's what makes this project unique.
We're home, we're here, and this is where we're gonna stay.
You know, I'm so excited to tell you, beginning this November, because of the work of so many, the United Way, the Boise School District, the City Council, all of them working on this, businesses and individuals, corporations, all of us are helping to bring early childhood to the Vista neighborhood. Beginning November, we're going to have room for 60 students in either the morning and afternoon sessions in Whitney and Hawthorne elementary schools, and we'll offer that for free. Give everybody a hand that's been involved in that. But you know, we can't stop here. We can't stop until every young person in the city of Boise has an opportunity to come to kindergarten prepared to learn, and not just in the city, but statewide. We're going to do all we can to leverage this early start to make sure the Idaho legislature agrees to fund public preschool in the state of Idaho. You have to help us all. We're going to start here, and we're going to take it statewide. Another way that we're fixing the roof while the sun is shining is an effort that we call Boise Competes. Boise Competes is a strategic look at economic development. We're going to do it quantitatively and qualitatively, and we're going to learn from that what's going well, what's going not so well, but most importantly, if there's something that isn't working so well, what is it specifically we can do to move that needle forward, to make a significant difference in that area. You're going to hear a lot more about Boise Competes, but it's already produced 2 recommendations that are well underway that we've already begun to address. You know, the first one is not really a surprise, but we know empirically, we know we have to do all we can. We have to do more to help new businesses thrive in the city of Boise. That's why we're so excited we have a running start with Trailhead. I talked about Trailhead it was just a concept still, last state of the city. It's the brainchild of some of our best entrepreneurs, Faisal Shah, Jason Crawford, Karen Myers, and many others. They came to me and they said, we have to do more for startups in the city. Not really a business incubator, but a business igniter on that first spark of an idea. And maybe an inexperienced entrepreneur needs some help. They need to hear from those that have had success. They need financial and legal help. Well, I'm so pleased that we've already opened up Trailhead, and just last week, we celebrated 100 members to Trailhead already. You can go in on any day and see dozens of people working on an idea, collaborating, getting the help and assistance they need. You know, just in these few months, we probably already had over a dozen events. They've been amazingly well attended. We've had some of the best venture capitalists and entrepreneurs from the country come and share what they've learned. This is only made possible by the efforts of so many. I'd like to thank our lead sponsor, Micron. Albertsons Corporation has Annie Need in to help. We're already looking at coding school. How do we help bring those tools to the workforce, those tools that all of our businesses and governments need? We're just so excited about what's gone on. Everybody's helped Annie in. A lot of these folks that had so much a part in this are here. Please recognize them for all their efforts and wish Trailhead well for the future. You know, Boise Competes had another important recommendation. This is probably the hardest to talk about. You know, we need to do more. And Trailhead showed us that empirically. We need to do more for charitable giving, for causes all across the city. You know, when compared to our peer cities, unfortunately, we end up in the lowest third when it comes to charitable giving. We just can't allow that to be the case. Just look at this great theater. If the Hardy family and Greg Caslow hadn't taken on this theater by themselves, we wouldn't be here, or it wouldn't be the grand place that it is today. You know, they just took it on themselves, and as I recall, when it was rededicated, they wouldn't say how much they spent. They didn't want that kind of credit. Representing the Hardy family this morning is Greg Caslow. Greg, could you stand up and be recognized for this wonderful gift to our community? Greg, where are you? Look at how much those gifts mean all across our city. Julia Davis Park, the Davis family continues to give to make that park even better. Esther Simplot Performing Arts Center, Catherine Albertson's Park. What would Boise be without that? And with a stingy legislature like ours, we have to do all we can. We have to do all we can to stretch every dollar as far as we can. But you know, the question is, who's going to be next? You know, there's a lot of success in the city. We know that. We see it all around us. We have to build a culture where the expectations are that when you have success, you share that success with everyone in our community, wherever that may be. It's just so important to our future success. It's meant so much to us over the years. Well, we're not going to leave this to chance. We went out and got expertise. It's unprecedented as far as we know in the history of Boise. We got expertise to help us grow this kind of culture, to grow a culture of giving to our community. You know, Chandra Ford has over 20 years of experience in university development. She's agreed to help in this effort. You're going to be hearing from me in the months ahead, but on top of that, you're going to be hearing from Chandra. Chandra's here this morning. Would you stand up and be recognized? Give a hand for Chandra, wherever you are. You know, this next piece of example of fixing the roof while the sun is shining is, I'm so happy to talk about it because it represents so much work by so many in our community to make this happen. You know, I'm sure by now all of you know that the Air Force is going to mothball the A-10 aircraft. And the plan has been to take the 124th Fighter Wing out of Gowen Field and move it to Mountain Home. We understand that we have to save money in our federal budget, certainly in the Department of Defense, but we have never seen anything empirical to show what this would save, if it would even save anything. You know, and it has such a detrimental effect. We've got 440 full-time Guards members at Gowen Field and over 500 traditional Guard members that serve part-time. The effect it'll have on them and their family and our whole community is just going to be devastating. So, you know, the city took the lead in this. We got the governor on board, our congressional delegation. The chamber has been wonderful. Bill Connors and the chamber stepped up to help in an effort. Individuals, companies, other governments. We put together an effort called Gowen Strong. And I'm so happy to be able to say this morning that we're beginning to see some results. Over the last several months, the last 3 or 4 in particular, we have heard from the highest levels of the Air Force. However many stars these generals have at the highest levels, they have told us and told other people, members of our community, that they no longer intend to move the 124th Fighter Wing from Gowen Field to Mountain Home. But you know, we can't stop here. That decision, if they don't have the intention, we know that that's an important step forward. That has to be formalized and will in that process. On top of that, we need to secure a flying mission for Gowen for years to come. As the general just said here in town a few weeks ago, I think I'm very optimistic you're going to see a flying mission at Gowen Field for years to come. But we can't stop. We need to make sure that that happens. We're starting to see the results of the work of so many. Rebecca Hupp, our airport director, the best airport director in the world, I might add. She has dug in on this issue, and along with the other great successes we've had at the airport. We can't stop now. We have to make that complete. Recognize everyone that's working on Gowen Strong. There are so many people here that have been part of that. You know, this is my 12th State of the City address. I certainly hope it isn't going to be my last one. But you know, something that one of our new officers said just a couple of weeks ago, it has caused me to reconsider our goal of being the most livable city in the country. Maybe that isn't quite ambitious enough. You know, Nate Davis has a great Boise story. I've heard dozens of these kind of stories over the last several years, and I know you have too. In fact, it could be a lot of your stories. You know, Nate lived in Las Vegas. He was working for the Las Vegas Police Department. And a few years ago, he decided it's not just time to leave Las Vegas, it's time to get to the best place that we can find. And he and his wife did an exhaustive look at the cities in the country. and they decided Boise was the place they had to come. And you know, he left policing in order just to get to Boise. He left and worked in another field so he could get here in the hopes that someday an opening in the Boise Police Department would come up and he could apply. Well, I'm happy to say that we had a recruiting class this last year, and along with several others, it was my privilege to swear Nate in as a new officer. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome one of the newest officers in the Boise Police Department, Mr. Nate Davis. Nate, stand on up. Welcome, Nate. You know, I got to meet his parents. It was such an exceptional day, and the other officers chose Nate as their class speaker. He just did a phenomenal job. But at one point in his remarks, and I quote this, he said, "I had to come to Boise. It's the best city in the universe." Now that, Nate, is a lofty goal. But you know, it got me thinking. In this last year, we've been on a global stage in at least 3 times. President Obama's visit brought incredible attention to the innovation and dynamism of our city and our university. You know, in the Bass Soccer Friendly, we not only turned the blue green, we turned a lot of cities green within me, that we could have such an exceptional, international, world-class event. And like every 5 years, this year was a Hialda year. It was bigger than ever by many thousand people. We had thousands of people from South America, from Europe, from Australia, from virtually all the states. And you know, I'll bet 100, maybe 200 or 300 of them sought me out to tell me, "Mayor, this is one of the greatest cities we have ever seen." You know, these events tell us that we belong on a global stage, but only if we do what it takes to stay there. We call our economic development Boise Competes because we have to compete, not just with our peers in the Northwest or in our area, but we have to compete with cities from Boston to Bilbao, and we have to get the better of them. That isn't to say anything at all bad about those cities. But you know, Nate came here, and I know you're here, because you wanted to be the best. Micron wants to be the best. Boise State pushes to be the best. That's what it means to be here right now. You know, in my faith, we hold up the example of the lives of the saints. This is what it means to be the best. This is how we should live our lives, because they have virtue, not just virtuous, but they have virtue in heroic proportions. You know, this is when it would be good to quote St. Francis of Assisi or St. Vincent de Paul, but what stuck in my mind is a quote from a different saint, St. Vincent Lombardi. When he went to the Packers, he brought his team around him and he said, "Gentlemen, we will chase perfection, and we will chase it relentlessly, knowing all the while we will never catch it, but along the way we will catch excellence." That's it, isn't it? Isn't that what we mean? To relentlessly pursue perfection? These great city council members, they are the personification of relentless. They are relentless people. Exhausting would be another word for them. If you have any doubt, they are great. They will go down as great city council members because they are relentless. That's what it means to be in this city. You know, Vince Lombardi played a game. In what we do, is there any choice but to be relentless in the pursuit of perfection? Is there any choice but to have perfection as our goal? Let me put it this way. How many homicides is the right number of homicides for a city our size? Of course, 0 is the only number. And thankfully, we have the kind of community where every homicide, any single one of them, bothers us and ought to keep bothering us, because 0 is the only appropriate number there. How many homeless people is it okay to have sleeping in the street at night? Of course, none is the only answer, the only one that we can ever allow. How many young people should have to go to school on their first day at kindergarten unprepared to learn? It falls to all of us to make sure not a single one is in that situation. You know, how many ugly buildings are okay before we build beautiful ones? And how many viable business ideas should go unexplored? Not a single one of those, because they could be the next Micron, the next Albertsons, the next company that's going to see prosperity forward. Ladies and gentlemen, the relentless pursuit of perfection. It's the only alternative. Once you try to be the best, you have to keep going. I hope that in the last 12 years, if you've seen anything, you've seen that I'm relentless. I'm not tall, I'm not thin. Relentless is how we have to be. The relentless pursuit of perfection is all there is. Our citizens rightly demand that of us, but more importantly, your children and my children deserve it. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for allowing me to be your mayor another year. God bless all of you, and God bless the great city of Boise.